Chapter 12 The Red Cross Society. Before we read, all of you must be familiar with the sign of Red Cross. The sign can be seen in every hospital, nursing home, ambulance, and even at the doctor's chamber. Do you know what the sign is about? Let us learn how it came into existence. Have you ever noticed a red cross on hospitals, nursing homes, ambulances, and even at the doctor's clinics? It is a cross mark in red color on a white background. Cross is the main religious symbol of the Christians. It is so because Jesus Christ was crucified on a cross. Red is the color of blood and wound. Although only the hospitals run by the Red Cross Society are authorized to use this symbol, but the recognition of the society's work worldwide laws everyone to use this symbol of Red Cross. You can find it even in hospitals, doctors' clinics, and ambulances. The name of Red Cross has become synonyms of solace and comfort to the victims of disasters. In case of any disaster, be it man-made like war or natural calamities like flood, drought, avalanche, or earthquake, the volunteers of Red Cross are the first to reach the spot and render all possible assistance to the victims. The symbol of Red Cross was first used by a person who devoted his entire life in the service of the soldiers wounded in war and thus inspired others also for the same cause. Later on, its services were extended to all the victims of natural calamities, like earthquakes, epidemics, etc. The name of this person was Jane Henry Donnet. How and why he created the Red Cross movement has an interesting story behind it. Henry Donnet was born on 8 May 1828 to a middle-class family in Geneva, a beautiful city in Switzerland. His father was a banker and mother a very kind and gentle lady. Kindness and caring for others was their family passion. Henry's mother often visited the homes for the poor, old, and sick. His father helped the orphan children to find a home. Since childhood, Henry was very intelligent and hard-working. He was very kind towards the poor and needy. This quality he got from his parents. He took it as one of the primary duties of a good citizen. Soon he rose to be a good banker like his father. He was moving up the steps to be a very successful businessman. Once, during his visit to Solferino, a city in North Italy, he chanced to witness a bloody battle between the armies of France and Austria. Though he was not a soldier, but he watched the scene from the top of a nearby hill. He was deeply moved at the horrors of war. He was shocked to see men killing other men ruthlessly. People were being wounded and killed by the bullets or crushed under the hoofs of the galloping horses. His heart cried to stop the war immediately. But what could he do? After 15 hours of fighting, over 50,000 soldiers were dead and several thousand wounded with little hope for life. Henry prepared himself for speedy action. He was used to help the people. But here the case was quite different. There were seriously wounded soldiers to both sides. He was aware that the hospitals would be overcrowded and doctors a few. Though he knew a few people in the city, but there was little time to contact every one of them. He called the unknown persons for the service. Many sincere people offered their services, who, though untrained, were willing to work under his guidance. Together they carried the wounded to a church and gave them food, water, and whatever relief they could provide. At first, the Italian volunteers refused to look after the Australian wounded soldiers. They said these are our enemies. Henry pacified them. He replied in a soft voice, "Yes, but they are also human beings like us. To err is human, to forgive is divine." People saw the compassion of Christ in his words. A woman was so impressed that she cried out in the hall, "Tutti Frutti, Tutti Frutti! They are all brothers." Every volunteer took the words as a divine message. They attended on all the wounded. This experience changed the entire course of Henry's life. Now he was a completely different man. Neither he could do his business well, nor eat properly. He could only think of the horrible sufferings of the people in the war. He gave up all his future plans of increasing his business. Instead, he thought over how the terrible sufferings of the people in the wars could be lessened. Henry Donant did tireless efforts to meet the higher authorities in the Swiss government. He gave his proposals in writing of the same. His consistent efforts bore fruit, and the Swiss government decided to call a conference of several nations to discuss his proposals. The delegates knew that wars between nations could not be stopped, but much of the unnecessary suffering caused by such wars could be made less painful. The countries came to an agreement, and a new society called the Red Cross Society was born. The chief objectives of the society were to curb human sufferings by way of first aid services, to encourage community development, to exercise epidemic control, to provide assistance to military personnel both on and off the battlefield, to organize programs on disease prevention and health promotion. According to the agreement, the hospitals and ambulances were not to be attacked, and the place where the Red Cross flag was flown would be regarded as a neutral zone. Prisoners would be exchanged wherever possible. Nations were expected to give medical aid to all the wounded soldiers, to whichever side they belonged. Within a short span of time, the Red Cross movement spread all over the world. All people, men and women, grown-ups and young, rich and poor, joined this movement of special service. Henry Donant had already spent most of his money. Due to neglect of business, he had no further income. Losing all his fortune, he had to move to a small Swiss village. He learned how to live a very simple life. He was cut off from the outside world for about 30 years when a young journalist found him. People rushed to him with help and awards, but he humbly refused, saying he needed nothing. When the International Nobel Prize was started, the first Nobel Prize in 1901 was given jointly to Henry Donant and a leader of a French peace organization. But once again, Henry came out as a hero. He donated the prize money to the cause of the Red Cross movement. In 1906, while Mahatma Gandhi was a leader of the Indian community in South Africa, he also joined the Red Cross movement. He became a Red Cross volunteer with 1,100 other Indians and served the wounded in the Boer War. During these days, they had to march many miles a day, bearing the wounded on stretchers. Glossary. Background. Setting. Crucified. Put to death by binding them to cross. Recognition. Acceptance. Symbol. Sign. Laws. Attracts. Inspired. Motivated. Solace. Relief. Calamities. Disasters. Avalanche. Landslide. Volunteers. Helpers. Render. provide, victims, sufferers, inspired, stirred, passion, favorer, orphan, child whose parents are dead, horrors, dreadfulness, ruthlessly, mercilessly, galloping, running, relief, assistance, pacified, calmed, compassion, kindness and sympathy, divine, heavenly, lessened, minimized, consistent, continuous, delegates, representatives, curb, control, humbly,